Welcome, one and all, to the Hammer Territory Podcast. My name is Shawn Coleman. Pleasure to be with you as always. Hope wherever you are and wherever you are listening, you're having a great week so far. Final week of the season. And listen, the Braves are playing good baseball. And so we figured that we would get some firsthand experience and analysis when it comes to Braves baseball. And we are very thrilled to have former Brave and Major League Baseball player enjoying retirement now, Kevin Pillar, has been kind enough to join us. Kevin, new member of the Foul Territory team, thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure to speak with you, sir.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. Yeah, retirement's been great. Foul Territory's been a great outlet and resource for me. So I'm happy to be helping you guys out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, and like I say, we really wanted to get your perspective on several things. I know that you're a 10-year plus major league veteran. You have had plenty of success. Congrats to you on a great career. Obviously, you've had wore many hats throughout your career. So just really going to value your opinion. Now, obviously, for those who follow Hammer Territory, Kevin was, of course, a part of the 2023 Braves, also was drafted by Alex Anthopoulos back in 2011 and as a member of the Toronto Blue Jays, for whom he spent much of his career. And Kevin, let's go right into it. I know that, now being a member of Foul Territory, you follow all the teams in Major League Baseball. You were there in 2023 when the Braves had their historical offense, just an absolutely outstanding regular season. The playoffs did not work out, and then over the past 2 years, it's been a bit of a struggle. When you were there with that team in 2023, and you've kind of seen how things have developed over the past few years, what really has stood out to you is the biggest reason as to why the Braves have not been able to return to that level of success? Why they
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a crystal ball. I mean, I think the obvious thing you could point to is injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's part of sports, but they've just been hammered by injuries. Not having Ronald for a full season, starting a year without Strider. The list goes on and on. Guys in the bullpen, other starting pitching. This is a star league, and the Braves, when I was there, had stars, and they were all healthy. And when you have them all in the field, it's you see the result of it. To be able to collectively have over 300 home runs as a team. I always forget the number. Was it 105 wins or 103 wins?
I think it was 103, 102, maybe somewhere in there.
102, over 100 wins, which is like you don't see, every year. You don't see teams win 100 games every year. It was just a team full of not only really good baseball players, but really good people. And I know potentially we'll go down that sort of rabbit hole with Alex over there and my connection with him. But I think even though it hasn't worked over the last 2 years, I do believe that's his secret sauce. I think that's his secret, recipe is he values good people and he wants that clubhouse. He wants everything to kind of fit. He wants to know that the best player on the team and the 26th player are all pulling on the same rope, that they're going to get along, that the players that come from Latin America or other countries are going to get along with the American players. He believes in the sum of the whole is greater than its parts. So he does an amazing job of doing that. And it's kind of crazy to be sitting here 2 years later from when I played for the Braves and talking about them missing the playoffs 2 consecutive years. When I was there, it felt like it was the beginning of a dynasty. And when I was here, it felt like it was kind of, we just ran into a good team. We ran into a great team. We ran into an unbelievably hot Phillies team that just had a ton of momentum going into the playoffs. And you obviously want to win as many games as you can in baseball. You want to win a division. You want to be able to kind of set that rotation up, give everyone rest. But what people forget is we ran away with that division early. We pretty much had that thing clinched in the middle of August. We weren't really playing meaningful baseball down the stretch. And did that kind of catch up to us a little bit? Maybe. Is it hard to kind of flip that switch and get back into, fight or flight mode, which we didn't really have to play with, for the last 2 months of the season? All that stuff kind of added up.
And those things definitely do add up. But I think you hit the nail on the head. The thing about Alex Anthopoulos is that, and you've been with, two versions of Alex when you were in Toronto and also obviously when you were with Atlanta. One thing that you mentioned is that he values good people. And obviously that keeps that clubhouse dynamic so strong. You were there in 2023. I'm sure you stayed connected with several of the players that were there as well. Keeping that part of things going well. The clubhouse dynamic as strong as possible. I imagine that's still the case, and that's one reason to have faith that this team can get back on track to be in the contender we all hope they can be in Braves country.
I'll tell you, I'll maybe aside from like what I would consider like my firstborn, my team's in Toronto, because there's nothing like your firstborn. You know, my first team, my first experience going to the playoff. That team was super tight. The 2015 Toronto Blue Jay team, even more so, even more so than the team in 2016, which was really a lot of the same people, but just the way everything kind of fit in 2015 was the closest team I ever been a part of until I went to Atlanta. Because I would say in Toronto, it was probably about 20 of the 25 guys or 26 guys were super tight. You know, we obviously had some guys that, showed up to play. They kind of did their own thing. And that's not a problem. But when I tell you 1 through 26 were in it, tight, wanted to hang out, wanted to go play golf on off days, wanted to go to team dinners, wanted to spend time with each other in their hotel rooms and hang out away from the field. I never been anything, a part of anything like that. There was just so many good people, and you think about kind of the leaders in that clubhouse. From a Matt Olson, Austin Riley, and even Marcelo Zuna is like just an amazing teammate. Probably doesn't get the same sort of respect as some of these other guys, but Marcel was nothing but just a wonderful teammate to me and everyone else that was there. Um, the pitching staff has a lot of those guys too. I think losing Max Fried was a big thing, not just for his talent, but Max was kind of the glue guy for the pitchers. And Darno leaving, and those are the tough business decisions that GMs have to make. Travis was beloved by his teammates. He was beloved by that city. He did a lot of great things for the Atlanta Braves. Probably wanted to be a Brave for the rest of his career. But when you have a guy like Greg Baldwin waiting in the wing, and it's the reason you draft and develop guys, at some point you have to make tough decisions. And what just missing that kind of leadership that Travis brought every day, that comfort to that pitching staff, is also something that they're missing a lot too.
Kratz, let's talk about Omaha Steaks, and it's not just steaks. It's chicken wings. It's smash burgers. Big deli style franks. There are a number of categories that you can hit all in one place. They've been doing it for a long time. They're the best in the biz. And if you got a good filet, life's good, man.
But you got to finish every meal with some delectable desserts, too. They have those, too, to go along with these delicious steaks.
Apple caramel tarts on the list, among many other menu items to check out. Be the hero that orders Omaha Steaks and is the most popular person in your household. So get fired up for fall grilling with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Red Hot Sale event. And for an extra $35 off, $35 off on top of that, use promo code FOUL at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code FOUL at checkout. See site for details.
You hit on a great point, the clubhouse dynamic has been so awesome, but over the years the Braves have lost a lot of those more long tenured, well-known guys. Freddie, Dansby, Max Fried, Marcelo Zuna's time may be coming to an end with him being a free agent. And now some of the longer tenured guys are Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Sean Murphy. Each and every one of those guys are so talented, so important to our success, but they've had multiple years of injuries that they're working through, just from personal experience or just from being in clubhouses where guys have gone through that, where years now have not gone as they have wanted to. What's the mindset to get back on track and, really be able to get back to what you once were? Is it going back to old ways? Is it changing things up? What helps you go through those multiple years of injuries or years not working out as you had anticipated?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal standpoint, like from a player's perspective, I felt like I did a really good job staying healthy in my career. I obviously had some injuries related to like impact and, sliding, things that you can't really avoid. But I would say one of my greatest strengths as an athlete and a competitor is I always continue to explore. I always continue to try to grow, in the off season. I always kind of changed up, and a lot of people will say if it's not broke, don't fix, but a lot of these guys are getting broken. And my body never really broke down, but I stopped running as fast. I stopped moving as well. I never had injuries. I never pulled anything, but I always went back to the drawing board every offseason. I always tweaked my offseason workouts, my diet, my workout routines. Some of these guys have to honestly look themselves in the mirrors, and it's hard when you've had a ton of success and what you've done has gotten you to this point. But sometimes you kind of have to turn over a new leaf in this game to kind of, change the way your body kind of functions, the way it operates, the way your body trains in the off season. If you're, and I'm thinking about Murph right now, and some of the stuff that's happened to him isn't necessarily his fault. He's had, the impact injuries, but he's also had the oblique injuries. So, you have to kind of, like you said, you got to kind of look yourself in the mirror. Ronald too, Ronald's gonna have to, and maybe some of that isn't the off-season stuff. Maybe that's him kind of dialing back some of the things he does on the field, which he did a good job of this year. Um, but I think as a player, you always have to be willing to make changes. You have to be willing to look yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, it's worked. But I am getting older. Objectively look at yourself. Objectively look at your numbers, your career, you know, the way your body feels after 162 games. What the data is telling you, and be willing to make some change. From an organizational standpoint, it would be very interesting because I know there's a lot of rumored that Snit might be leaving after this year. What kind of direction they go? Is that a entire overhaul of the coaching staff? As a guy like Walt Weiss, maybe get a chance to, step up and take a leadership role. Is Cranny coming back? I know he had missed some time. He had some family issues. The Braves obviously last year, with the first year them not having success in what, like 8 or 9 straight years, found a reason to move on from their hitting coaches. After 1 year, this is a second year. Are a lot of changes coming? Are minimal changes coming? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not Alex. But what I would tell you, and obviously this is a Braves show, and your viewers are Braves fans, it's really hard to have the level of success that the Braves have had over the last 10 years. I know it's only resulted in one World Series. But if you look at the history of the game, there hasn't been a back-to-back World Series winner since the Yankees did it in the late, you know, 1990s. So it's really hard to win in this sport. What the Braves have been able to do and get to the postseason and win divisions year after year after year um, has a lot to do with the person leading the charge in Alex. And with whatever may happen this year, with whatever changes might happen, as a Braves fan, which I am, because I love the organization, I love the people there, I still root for them. I have the utmost trust in whatever decision and whatever route he decides to take with this organization, because I know more than anything, obviously talent wins a lot of games, but building a culture and building an organization with the right people, I trust no one else more in this game than Alex.
That's very reassuring to hear, because it's a great segue into my next question. This is a pivotal offseason, right? It's the first offseason, in which Alex really is coming from not making the playoffs. What he had hoped would be the outcome was not there. So one thing in Toronto that Alex was kind of known for, he would make those gutsy trades. He would go out and get those big contracts or those big guys, but he's also a very loyal general manager. He loves his guys. I know more than most probably know that firsthand. Just, do you think that some type of shakeup makes sense for this Braves team? I'm not looking to get anything, off the wall, just to, say something that it's going to turn heads. But from your personal experience, do you think that it makes sense for him to do a move like that, or to trust that internal development / players getting back to their old ways is going to be the best route for success?
I think a combination of all of them is kind of the answer. But Alex is known to be kind of the person that hides back in the weeds, and then makes these deals where no one sees him coming. I mean, you think about the Sale deal he made 2 years ago. People didn't even know Chris Sale was available. That's just kind of how Alex works. He operates in the dark. So, as much as he operates in the dark in terms of stuff like that, when it comes to like trade deadline acquisitions, he does a really good job of, and not to say that a player like myself or any player in that clubhouse has the ultimate say if you're bringing him or not bringing him, but he does a really good job with his guys. Think Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson. If he's thinking about acquiring someone that is rumored to be acquired, he's going to do his homework himself. He's going to make his phone calls, but he's also going to ask the players, what do you know about this guy? I know you played with him somewhere in the minor leagues, or you played with him in Oakland. Like, he really does trust the opinion of his players, because he wants to protect the Braves brand so much, and he wants to make sure that everyone fits when they come into that clubhouse. I don't know if he would care me sharing this story, but this is dating back to 2016 when Alex got let go from the Toronto Blue Jays after having those kind of two magical runs. And there was front office turnover. Rogers made some decisions to move on, but I'll never forget getting a phone call from Alex in the winter of 2016, basically just thanking me. And he didn't just call me; he called a lot of those core guys from those teams and just thanked him, for the success that we had, but also the growth that he had as a general manager. And a big thing he talked about is I always used to get caught up on the back of the baseball card. It was all about numbers for me. What I learned through my experience with you guys, through some trial and error, was exactly what I was talking about. You obviously need talent, but you need the right talent. We need to bring the right people. So he learned that he had to make some tough decisions with some tenured guys in Toronto, short, kind of towards the beginning of my career when I wasn't even established, but guys that were, household names in Toronto, he had to cut the cord with because he didn't feel like they were the right pieces, you know. So moving forward, they definitely have the right pieces in place, but I would expect them to continue to build on what they have there. There may be some shakeups. Anytime you what I do know about Alex is there's not a lot of patience. There's patience for someone like Drake Baldwin, who they're going to allow to develop in the minor leagues. And when it's his time to come up, he's going to allow him to come up. What he is not patient with is he's not going through a rebuild. He is going to do everything in his power this offseason to build a sustainable winner, not only for next year, but for the next couple of years. I would say at least through, Olson and Riley's contract or Michael Harris's contracts. Um, you know, a lot of people, I hear a lot of I hear a lot of rumors talking about maybe the complacency when you sign a bunch of these guys up and you have, 9 guys under contract. Are they less hungry to go out there and perform every day? Coming from a player's perspective, someone who never got that payday, yes, I was always hungry to continue to go out and fight for my life every single day. But I can't speak on the other side of it. But what I would tell you now that I'm retired is if I was fortunate enough to have gotten that payday, I think I could have gone out there and played a little bit more free. The struggles wouldn't have kind of affected, my mindset as much anymore. There would have been a level of comfort. There would have been a little bit more comfort to go out there and not worry about my statistics, but doing whatever I had to do every single day to help that team win. And knowing the guys that they have signed up for those long-term deals, they're exactly those type of guys. The struggles aren't going to affect them as much because they know that their family is taken care of. Their individual numbers aren't going to factor in as much. What they're trying to do every single day is they're going to go out there and try to help their team win. Um, a perfect example is I know Olson, last year didn't have as great of a year as he did. Obviously, coming off the historic year with the 50 plus home runs, the 130 RBIs, had a little bit of a down year. it's easy for him to go out there and be complacent after the bad year he had last year. And you see him going off this year, being an all-star again, being a top 5 first baseman. That just speaks to the type of person Matt Olson is because, me or you, we're securing the bag. It's easy to kind of just, downshift a little bit and just go into cruise control. Not those guys in the clubhouse. And you speaking another one of those guys, Riley, just the unfortunate injury plagued year. He's a guy, that I'll personally reach out to and offer my kind of guidance and advice on. But he's another guy who just objectively has to kind of look in the mirror too and say, getting hit by a pitch is kind of out of his control, right? But some of the other injuries that happen, it's just evolving and changing and going out and looking for the best people in those areas of training and medical, and just tweaking your off-season workout to just try to be on the field every single day because he's so damn good when he's on the field. He's a top 3 third baseman in the game. It's just about staying healthy. And my relationship with him goes beyond the year that we played with. We formed a real friendship and brotherhood. And like I said, when the season's over, I'll pick up the phone and call him and just hear what he has to say. And then I'll just kind of encourage him to go out and explore those things because the game, not only the Braves, but the game of baseball is in a much better place when he's on the field. And I look forward to, getting a text on my phone when the lineup's posted and seeing his name in it and me being able to tune in and watch him play.
FT fam, it's still time for you to check out what bathing suit you're wearing and why it's not Fair Harbor. Can we get a little show and tell from Eric Kratz? Nice.
I mean, unfortunately, you can't even see all the little intricacies. We got sharks, we got patterns, we got waves, we got sailboats. Oh, and they feel super buttery on your skin.
Can you show us the liner so people can understand how it's different? Because I've actually been talking it up. I was just on a vacation.
I got the unique liner too. I got the baby blue, John. Something about it. I don't know. It pops.
Head to fairharborclothing.com/foul20 and use code foul20, foul20 for 20% off your order. Once again, that's fair, HARBOR clothing.com/foul20 for 20% off. Make sure you use that promo code foul20 so they know FT sent you.
I know so many of us are looking forward to that as well. Kevin Pillar here with us, former MLB player, had an awesome career, member of the 2023 Braves, who's been so kind to join us. Kevin, just a few more questions with you. One thing I've always wondered is the Braves have had good success, yourself as well as many others who have joined the team for maybe a year or two. And when they come to the Braves, they have success at a level that they did not maybe have in previous places. I know that you speak to the camaraderie and just the awesome people there, the awesome people presence that sets the Braves team apart. Is there anything organizationally as far as their approach towards you as a player that stands out offensively, defensively? Is there anything that separates them, especially you having been a part of so many organizations, anything that really stands out about them that leads us for the player on the field?
Yeah, I don't think in terms of the X's and O's, but I think the Braves do a really good job of when they approach you in the offseason, if you're a minor league free agent or a free agent trying to kind of bounce back. They like you who you are. They like the type of player. They know exactly who they're getting. I mean, at least with me, they knew, and obviously my relationship with Alex had a lot to do with that, but it wasn't about me being anything that I wasn't or couldn't be. It was about just being me and being my authentic self. And the guys just make it so easy for you to come in and be your authentic self. And obviously, when I went in there, I had, I think I was in my 8th year or 9th year. I was closing in on 10 years. I already had a reputation in the game. And I learned that from going from team to team. Obviously, the first time getting traded, it was really tough. The second or third team was also a little bit more difficult. But when you kind of have a track record and you're an established person in this game, I found it really easy for me to just come in and be myself. And obviously, the Braves were very welcoming, inspiring, encouraging. It was just easy for me to be myself. And that came from not only Alex, the players, but Snit and the coaching staff all the way down. They're like, we know who you are. You know who you are as a player. Just be that guy, and that's it. And that gives you comfort. And obviously, in terms of the X's and O's, it wasn't so much in my opinion, a really good organization isn't necessarily getting the X's and O's from the hitting guys. You're getting it from your peers. The Braves are really good at. I could go in a cage with Austin Riley or Ozuna ended up being kind of my guy that I would spend a lot of time with in the cage because him being a DH, me being a part-time player, we found time during the game, when he was getting ready and I would kind of mix in when I was pinch hitting. I could sit on the bench and kind of talk approach with him. But, your best hitting coaches are your peers. And I think that's why I think a lot of guys that maybe have underperformed or guys like me kind of on their last leg in their career kind of go in and have good years is you're surrounded by great guys and you're it's easy for a hitting coach to kind of objectively give you kind of advice and analytically and motion capture. But being able to talk to a guy who's also standing in that box with you is so invaluable. Guys that have struggled, guys that have had success. When you're a right-handed pitcher and you're facing a lefty and you're talking to other right-handed hitters in the lineup, there's no replacement for that. And you would hope that that's how it is across the board, but it's not everywhere I've been. And that's just another example of why the Braves are able to bring in guys like me and have success, and why collectively they're able to have success for such a long period of time.
One last thing I would love to get your perspective on is a big factor in why they've had so much success besides Alex Anthopoulos. Of course, that's manager Brian Snitker. Future to be determined. There could be a possibility that this may be, the end of his career. And if it is, it's been a wonderful career with the Braves. But also then bringing back Charlie Morton. Kevin, I know that you know Charlie from the game as well, also being teammates in 23. Just any perspective that you can give on those two, if this is to be it for their careers, any perspective, any fun stories as what could be their final weekend together and maybe in baseball in general.
Yeah, I think Snit just automatically, when you're a baseball lifer, you spent your whole time in organization. You came up in a time when things were ugly, and he was kind of just able to kind of motivate that group. And previous manager before him was kind of dealt a little bit of a tough hand. The teams weren't really good, and Snit kind of came in at the right time when a lot of these young, what are now superstars, were kind of getting to the big leagues, but you just automatically just have a respect for a guy who's put his life's work into not only baseball but the Braves organization, and I think he never took that position for granted. And I think the players understood that. I understood it, even though when I got there, he had won a World Series, he had a ton of success. You could still see the humility he had for the position, the appreciation he had for the position. Never took it for granted. Never abused his power. Understood his place. And that was another thing is when he spoke, you listened, but he didn't speak all that time, all that much. He allowed the players to kind of dictate the direction that that ship was going to go in, and that's not to say he couldn't do it, but that's just what a humble leader does. Is he understands that he could be a dictator in that sort of that role, but instead he wanted to delegate to his leaders on his team, his coaching staff. He allowed his coaches to coach, and that doesn't happen everywhere. He didn't. When you're a manager, you have the right to put your foot in, any meeting, any door that you want to step in. You could open your mouth in hitting meeting. You could overstep wherever you see fit. He allowed his coaches to coach, and I think that's why those coaches, whether it's the bullpen coach or the hitting guys or the pitching coach or the bullpen coach or whoever, whatever coach, the bench coach, he allowed them to be them. He allowed them to thrive in their roles, and it's powerful. And if it is the last year, he had a heck of a ride. He deserves retirement much more than most coaches in this game. Someone that, like I said, dedicated his life to one organization, more beyond paid his dues to get his chance in the big leagues, and to be able to go out as not necessarily go out this year, but to go out right off in the sunset as a World Series championship is well deserved. And just to speak to the class of him too, he was someone that had reached out to me when I officially retired. Not a man of many words, but a powerful message he had sent me, and just basically respecting my career and what I had done, and appreciating for it, and for me to really understand where I come from. Being a late round draft pick, and to survive 10 years, to really sit back and celebrate that, enjoy that, pat myself on the back. It's time to do that when your career's over. And it just kind of speaks to who he is, and kind of the relationship that we kind of formed just over one short year there. And Charlie, just uh, amazing career. Talk about, just I've spent a lot of time now that I'm done, talking to, a lot of youthful players, whether they're, my 5-year-olds here were guys that are in high school, guys that are in college, but just reassuring them that everyone's path is not linear in this direction. And, obviously mine, going to a D2, getting drafted late, making it is, one sort of parallel, skyrocket sort of journey to the big leagues. And then you think about a guy like Charlie Morton, who maybe had that kind of quick rise to the big leagues, but didn't have success right away, and kind of had to reinvent himself 2 or 3 times over, and really found his best success in his 30s. You talk about kind of an unparalleled path to success and fame, and um, longevity in his career. Talk about a guy who had to look himself in the mirror objectively, make some changes, reinvent himself, and to be able to pitch, you know, in his late 30s, be the best version of himself kind of into his 40s is uncharacteristic, but just kind of speaks to the work ethic, the humility, um, the ability to look at himself objectively in the mirror. And Charlie, as a teammate, was honestly like a father figure. And it's weird to think that we're really only like 4, 6 years apart, but in baseball years, that's light years. He had much older kids. I have kids like still that are like babies, and he has like kids that are going to high school. So he was always like a father figure to everyone. Um, Behind the scenes, very funny, goofy guy, almost awkward to some degree. But he was just an awesome teammate, super lovable, great competitor on every 5 days. And then, as a starting pitcher, obviously there's guys you want out there. You taking the ball. Charlie, much like a lot of teammates, is one of those guys I wanted. It's what is that guy like those other 4 days? And Charlie was just a great teammate. You wanted to be around him. He loved talking the game. He loved helping the younger pitchers. So if hopefully this, I can't speak for Charlie, but hopefully this is the end for him, because he put a lot of years in the big leagues, and he's got a beautiful family that is probably ready for him to be home, and he'll get a chance to enjoy that.
Absolutely. Kevin, this has been a great interview. Thank you for the thoroughness and the sincerity. Great to get, your perspective on things. And it's also just awesome. We all want for the success on the field, but it certainly means a lot to cheer for an organization where there's just full of great people that have been there for a while. And congrats to you on a great career, one of the best fielders of this generation, so many awards when it came to the outfield. But Kevin, please correct me if I'm wrong. I also want to put a little bit of spotlight on that Division II career of yours. If I'm correct, a 54-game hitting streak, which still remains the Division II record. That is awesome. When you were going through that hitting streak yourself, did you keep the same routine? What was your secret to success during that time in Division II, if I might ask?
Yeah, I think initially it was, when you're even in the big leagues, but more so in college, it's a little bit more realistic. But like our goal every time we go to home plate is to have a successful at bat. And
Gotcha.
in the terms of, the simple way of putting it is success is getting hits, right?
Yeah.
I know the game's changed a little bit in terms of expected, and a lot of that stuff has some value and stuff. But when you're a kid playing D2 baseball, it's either you get a hit or you don't get a hit. When you're playing backyard baseball, you get a hit or you don't get a hit. There's no I hit the ball hard, I win sort of mindset, when I was playing. So that was kind of always my mindset, was like I was trying to be successful every at bat, and I was able to stack a lot of those games on top of each other. And honestly, it didn't feel any different early on. I was just kind of playing, and that was my idea of success, was getting hits. And when I started reaching kind of different milestones, whether it was the school record, whether it was my conference record, and then ultimately when I started getting upwards of Division II record and then national record, you started feeling the pressure a little bit more. But really, honestly, I think I was a little naive, and I think I just was a ball player, and I just kind of kept that same routine, that same mindset as. Yes, I felt the pressure when I was kind of getting towards my last at bat and I didn't have a hit. Like maybe it just helped me focus a little bit more. But regardless, if I wasn't chasing these records, I was gonna feel the same way if I was 0 for 3 and this is my last at bat. I'm like, damn, I want to go home with a hit. So, I think that kind of just mindset kind of helped me kind of get through it. And when it was over, it was kind of sad, but I went back for my senior year and nothing really changed for me. It was like my goal every day is to go get my goal every at bat is to get a hit. It's not going to change.
Yeah. Just keep it simple. Led to a hell of a major league
Yeah.
career, and also now a great addition to the Foul Territory family. Kevin, if you'll stick with us for just a moment, but thank you so much for your time, and best of luck to you and your family. Continued success on.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love the Foul Territory brand. I love coming on, helping you out. Obviously, reach out during the off season when things start happening. I love talking Braves. Like I said, I got to reach out to some of my Braves buddies over there and kind of pick their brain a little bit and see what's going on, and would love to share.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for the insight. Of course, Kevin Pillar, you will find him as a member of the Foul Territory Network, Hammer Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network as well. The rest of the weekend, the final weekend of the season is wrapping up. I know that Kevin's probably sad to see that for some of his friends in the game. I know we're sad to see that in Braves country, but hey, the offseason starts and then we'll all be back to that success. For Kevin Pillar, again, thank you so much, Kevin. My name's Shawn Coleman. Catch us next time. As a reminder, go Braves. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory Podcast.